Let's get into it. Sold Not For Sale podcast, episode 698. We got Tucker Carlson, and I don't know what else to call this other than Tucker Carlson's America First speech. Now, throughout this speech, he does say that America First is a loaded term that he doesn't like to use, but I only think that's because it's kind of like, you know, I only like cats, and then somebody's like, well, tell us how much you hate dogs, because apparently you can't stand them. It's like that kind of thing. So if you say America First, all of a sudden it's like, well, you hate every other nation. You're xenophobic, anti-Semitic, all those good things, all those fantastic things they love to throw on people, right? So he doesn't like to use that term, but throughout this speech, he is saying exactly what I have been echoing since October 7th, the dark day that Israel had where they had the Hamas attacks. Because right away I was like, if this results in another $100 billion going to another nation, that's bad. Doesn't matter who it is. Doesn't matter what happened. If they got an army and they got their own defenses and we're giving them money, bad. End of story. And that's it. That is what it turned out to be. Let's get right into Tucker Carlson's speech because he just says it all beautifully.
Early, and I actually wrote a piece, not for the Daily Caller, I'm embarrassed, but for Politico, because I wanted to sort of drop a bomb into my neighbor's laps, and said, look, you may think that Trump is a ludicrous figure, and you may be onto something, but fundamentally what he's saying is not crazy at all, and in fact it's necessary, and if you don't want to have another revolution in the country, you should probably start paying a little bit of attention to what the people beyond Washington think. And I thought then, that was January of 2016, I thought that message was so rooted in common sense and also in observed reality that he would probably win, and he did. So I got a lot out of making that one call correctly in my life. And I really did think that we would see, say, 5 or 6, 7 years hence, a political system that more closely matched that idea. You know, that the work product coming out of Washington would bear a little closer resemblance to what people wanted. And of course, the opposite happened. It's crazy how that idea just went away and no one actually believed in it, which that blew my mind most of all, including a lot of people I thought were on my side, including a lot of people who paid a lot of lip service to, put the country first. I personally don't like the term America First because I think it is loaded, but just common sense stuff. Like if something really dramatic in your country happens, like young people can't, get married, or buy houses or have any hope for a future that approaches, the middle-class upbringing they had, then you've got a huge problem and someone should be responding to that. And if your economy is like on the brink of collapse, if your country's literally bankrupt, someone would say that. And if food inflation gets so crazy that, people are actually complaining about it, at least where I live. I spend a lot of the year in rural Maine. That doesn't make me an expert on the people or anything. I'm fundamentally a rich kid, obviously. But I do live among people who aren't rich, and they're like legit upset about what groceries cost, like for real, and what gas costs. And now that we've drained the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, they're about to find out that it could get way higher than it is. So these are just real concerns. It doesn't mean they're the only concerns, but they can't be completely ignored, or you're going to have a volatile situation on your hands, and why wouldn't you? Angry people who feel like they have no recourse, who don't think elections are real, and they're totally right, obviously. Let's stop lying. There's a lot of truth in that. And those people are, they have real grievances, legit grievances. And the only way to tamp those grievances down is not by creating some East German surveillance state, which we have done, or throwing people in prison for loitering outside the Capitol, which is their house after all. That doesn't work long term. It didn't work in Eastern Europe. It won't work here. The only thing that does work is kind of giving them not all they want, but some. Or how about this? Let's just start with pretending you care. But you know what doesn't work? Saying we're going to spend $100 billion in other countries. And I don't care how virtuous the case those countries make is, and I don't care how much I personally may agree or disagree with what those countries are doing. That is immaterial. The job, the moral duty of the people running a country is to look out for the people in that country, period. That's always true. And it doesn't mean they can't help other people or whatever, But if they pay no attention whatsoever, and in a moment when every person, 350 million Americans, everyone, regardless of political affiliation, can feel that something bad's coming, everybody knows that. Everybody knows that. I mean, if you've been to church once in the last year, have you thought about the end times recently? Yes, you have. I'm serious. Because you can feel that abrupt change is coming, and that's very disconcerting. And so rather than reassure people that, we kind of got your back a little bit, by the way, we're going to spend $100 billion on other people, other than the border security part, is purely designed to make it easier for more people to come here illegitimately. That's freaking scary, okay? So I don't have TV at home, and I don't watch TV.
I just got to jump in because that's so true, man. You have to think about that. $100 billion elsewhere. And I've said it before. You take a look at Philadelphia. Take a look at all these places that are run by Democrats. And they're in ruin. They're broken down. There's zombies walking around. There's people ODing constantly. There's a rush of immigrants who are completely undocumented, could have gave fake names for all we know. Zero, we know nothing about, just nothing. And then while people are looking up to who they have to look up to, they have to look up to the government in these situations. If a community has the resources and wants to make their own border wall and they live in Texas and they want to do that's great. But for the most part, you're looking to the government and you're saying, please help us some way. And they literally look at you and say, we're going to help you. And the way we're going to do it is we're going to send $100 billion to Israel and Ukraine. And you're just sitting there like, what are you talking about? That doesn't fix anything here. You fix nothing here. When's the last time Biden went to Maui? When's the last time somebody brought up East Palestine? What's going on? Who, at least have somebody, like Tucker just said, maybe not everything, but something. Fix one thing before you worry about other things. Just one thing. Just completely fix it from top to bottom. But nothing. And then Tucker brought it up. What do you think's going to happen? What do you think? Eventually someone's going to be like, well, they don't do anything for me. I don't respect their authority. There's already probably tens of thousands of people with that mindset. But eventually someone's going to voice it, and they're going to voice it to someone of authority, and this is going to turn bad. And it's so easily fixed. It's so easily fixed that to me it almost seems like this is being done on purpose. It's so easily fixed. You're the president. You have a million things to worry about. How is the country? Well, this place doesn't have clean water. Okay, I'm going to worry about that. The president of Israel, Prime Minister of Israel, wants to meet with you. Tell him to chill. I got to go deal with something else. Can you imagine? I don't want Biden to be president, but it wouldn't take much for him to get reelected. Imagine he just touched down in Flint and said, we're fixing it. We're fixing it right now. And I'm not going to leave. I'm actually just setting up this tent, this infirmary type place, and I'm staying here until it's fixed. And then a month later, it was fixed. Everybody would be like, well, Biden's incredible. He's incredible. And then he goes to East Palestine. Hey, we're doing the same thing. Then he goes to Maui. I'm staying right here until every house is built. Everybody would be like, well, he's the new JFK. It's done. It's done. I love Trump, but it's over now because he just did these things. But he won't do it. And another point, that's exactly why he shouldn't be reelected. Let's get back to the speech. Sorry.
We haven't in years, because my wife is fiercely opposed to television. But obviously, I have some familiarity with the genre. So I'm thinking to myself, the other day I was like, I wonder what they're saying about this on TV, but I'm just being honest, I have no way really of knowing. So today, this afternoon, 2 o'clock this afternoon, I'm in the hospital visiting a very sick relative. And in the room, and I'm very focused on this, and it's a drama familiar to everyone who has a family, and these are the saddest moments in your life, but I'm sitting there, and the TV is cranked way up because it's a facility for older people and no one can hear well. So when they watch TV, it's like, bam, it's loud. And it's a channel that I'm familiar with. I guess I'm familiar with all of them, having worked at all of them, and admit I've been fired from all of them. But this is one I know well, and I'm thinking, well, I wonder what they're saying about all this. You know, because their job is to be, you know, opposed to this. And they take the White House briefing. And the White House briefing is just a humiliation exercise because it's administered by the dumbest person in public life. Like, so dumb it's unbelievable. I'm not being mean, I feel sorry for her. By the way, intelligence is not a moral category. My dogs are dumb and I love them. So I'm not sort of judging her, but I'm just saying is, you know, this is like a mouth breather, okay? And the whole point of her being the White House spokesmoron is to tell you that the people in charge have no respect for you, so we're going to put the dumbest possible person we can up there. And she's prattling on about Iran, and I'm just waiting for her. Like, she doesn't know Iran from Innsbruck, okay? She has no idea what she's talking about, right? And I'm literally waiting for her to say, you know, to attack Saddam Hussein, the president of Iran, okay? Because literally her shallowness has no bottom. It's like a Zen koan. That's almost like a Kamala Harris line, actually. But anyway, and then they come back, and they're totally taking her seriously. And then the oiliest fake admiral spokesman who've ever commanded a ship literally can't run a Boston whaler. He's been a flack his whole life. Admiral. He's a liar, and I know him personally. He's a liar, and everyone who's dealt with him knows he's a liar. And they're like, well, he says this. And the upshot is, we got to attack Iran. Now, I'm thinking to myself, I have no love for Iran, and I can certainly see why people want to attack Iran. All I'm asking is just to put one person on TV to point out that there are consequences to the United States that may not be entirely positive to doing this. That maybe another moral victory, and we've won a lot of those recently. I don't know, are you guys sick of winning moral victories? We've won a lot of important moral victories. I interviewed someone the other day, a major political figure from the UK, and he's like, well, we've let all these refugees in, and it's really been a great moral victory. And I was like, I was just in your country, and it's garbage. I mean, it smells, and it's pathetic. And like, do you think that, I know you're psyched about your moral victory, you're good people, trust me, you're good Anglicans. I'm really so impressed by you morally, but like, has there been a downside in real terms? And he's like, oh, I can't answer that question, not allowed. So anyway, I just wanted someone to stand up and ask the obvious question. I'm not even arguing against a war with Iran. I'm merely saying there are consequences to doing that. One is we can't win it, probably, with the defense that we have currently. I think that's fair. But even if we could, I mean, what would happen if they mine the Straits of Hormuz? I mean, I'm no energy expert, but I think that we would have an immediate energy shock that would send our country into an economic spiral within like hours, okay? And we don't have any cushion because we burned it all, because the senile guy's running for president again, okay? And we sort of let that happen. Sold some of it to China. We sort of let it happen. So that's not a small thing. One thing Americans are not used to is being poor. In the rest of the world, people really worry about the economic effects of everything. Why wouldn't they? Because they're not generationally rich like us. But what if we ran out of money? At the very same moment that American society is more fractured, our social fabric is in tatters, and we've let in millions upon millions of people who have no affinity for the United States, who are merely here for the economic benefits, which, by the way, is not all bad, and I think a lot of them are good people. I'm not attacking them. I'm merely saying their addition does not make us a more cohesive country. It makes it a far less cohesive country, okay?
See, now, and to that point that he just said, because it's very true, it makes it more fractured, more divided, as they let more and more people in, just from all over the place, constantly, completely undocumented. This is to my point of, like, this has to be done on purpose, right? Why else would you do this at such a why would you do all of these things together? All of them together. You know? One thing after another. Just like a chain smoker. Just one, next. What would it be building to? What positive could it all be building to? That's, you know, the reason, like he said in this speech, he goes, everybody feels like something bad's coming. Everybody feels like, you know, end times and all this stuff. It's like, yeah, because the things that are happening, they have no positive outcomes. The things that are being done by the establishment have no positive outcomes. Why are they? You know, as much as I don't like the establishment, you know, the deep state, I'll never say they're dumb. They're not dumb. There's too many people. Once there's thousands of people and they're all calculating and doing things, they have intelligence. They're literally gathering intelligence. So they have to be smart in some way, shape, or fashion. So as all this happens and it's leading to this negative end, it only tells me that the equation that they were written out, they were like, well, yeah, and then that's how we get to this negative place. But why do they want to get there? Who does it help? I don't know. Very odd. Very odd. Let's get back to it.
Okay? No matter how admirable they may be, and I know some of them, and I really like them, okay? I've even met illegal aliens I really like. I'm just being honest. But if you have millions upon millions of people with no loyalty to the United States who are all on public benefits and the country goes bankrupt, what happens? You know, last time we had a depression, the country held together because Americans had a lot in common with each other. But what happens next time, honestly? Moreover, when your country's at war, civil liberties disappear. And we saw this in the last 20-year war on terror. And I supported all that stuff, and I have egg on my face. I'm worse than that. I'm ashamed of the measures that I supported, which were, of course, turned against me. And the NSA got busted reading my text messages on Signal, which is supposedly secure. Spoiler alert, it's not. So keep the naughty pictures off Signal, okay, because they're looking at them. But they did that. They got caught doing it. No one resigned or even apologized, and that was all legal because of the measures we put in place the last time we were fighting the bad guys over a 20-year period that measurably weakened the country and from which we derived nothing in the end. So I'm merely saying maybe we should just pause for 1 second to ask, could we be doing that again, but at scale? Not one person. You're not allowed. Because everything is some moral argument. Well, are you on the side of the bad guys? No. And so I look at how this is arrayed, and again, I can't tell you how disgusted I am by the behavior of people who said they were conservative and cared about the country and clearly don't. Because no one asked that question. They're all too afraid. And then the other side, the wackos running around calling for, the pro-Hamas people, decolonize, they're mad at Israel for being white and they want to kill everybody. Obviously, if forced to choose, I go with Ben Shapiro, okay? But I shouldn't have to choose. Like, there should be the America guy in the middle who's like, I have strong sympathies here, and, morally I'm on one side, but I'm an American, and I've got a ton of kids. Well, I'll speak for myself. I am an American. I was born here. I will die here. I have a ton of kids, and I kind of want them to be able to live here in a country that resembles the one in which I grew up. And what about them? Shut up! Oh, shut up's not good enough, actually. And the spirit of fear, and I hate to use the term, but groupthink, that has descended upon lawmakers and, I would say, movement leaders in Washington, where no one can say something that's completely obvious because, well, you're anti-Israel? Well, no one's going to call me anti-Israel. I like Israel. And one of the things I love about Israel, in addition to the fact it's beautiful and great food, took my kids there on vacation, is I like the Israelis. What do I like about the Israelis? They're proud of themselves and their country. I like that. I like secure people. But I don't know a single Israeli, and I say this as a compliment from my heart, I don't know a single Israeli who would jeopardize his own country's economy or safety for another nation. Because they care about their nation. Like, what the hell? I'm saying this as a compliment. But why would we do that? And when I see leaders on the left and right call for refugees from Gaza to be imported here, they're too dangerous for other countries, but we should take them? What are you saying? What are you saying about how you feel about my country? You're saying you consider it a trash bin. Throw the refuse there. No one else wants to deal with it. America will deal with it. Well, how about no? How about anyone who even suggests something like that? Speaking of a betrayal of your country, that's just telling me everything I need to know about how you feel about the United States of America. And I'm disgusted by it. Did you even think something like that? Really? And yet that is considered like kind of within bounds. And I notice there are a few Republicans who are like, well, that could happen, and we're going to pass legislation preemptively to make sure it doesn't. It's like, why would we even have that conversation? That is truly nuts. It's nuts. And more than anything, it's revealing of an attitude that is poisonous and that everyone else in the country can feel. They know it. And again, don't look to me because I live in my family summer house. I'm not pretending to be, what J.D. Vance actually is, which is a son of middle America, of working America. I'm not. but I try to observe, and I try to talk to people. I like people, and I can tell you, I can promise you that the level of resentment toward those attitudes is extremely high. It's extremely high, and it absolutely should be.
That's amazing. Amazing. Tucker. And that one thing that he said about Israelis, I know a lot of Israelis, Jewish people in general, they're all very proud of Israel. And they wouldn't sacrifice its safety for anything. For anything. You could be like, but these people over here, they'd be like, that's good. We'll send some moral support. I don't know. But we're not jeopardizing the people here for the people over there. We're not doing that. And you know what? He brings up Israel because that's the hot topic right now. But most nations will not do that. And I want to say almost all nations won't do that. I'm telling you, America, I've said it before. I've said it this morning to my friend while we were having a discussion. It's the only place that's taught to look after the entire world. Right down, not even just the government doing it, but they try to get the people to also have their eyes on what's going on around the world constantly. It just doesn't make any sense. You know? Israelis are very proud. Very proud. And they're not going to sacrifice. And I said this before. When all this blows over, because it will, you know, Israel is going to do what they have to do. You know, blow over. You know what I mean? It's not going to all of a sudden be all nice and rainbows, but eventually what's going to happen is going to happen. And all the other nations are going to go back to focusing on themselves. Iran's going to focus on Iran. You know, the Palestinians, wherever they end up, they're going to be focusing there. Israelis are going to be focusing on Israel. The Polish are going to be focusing on Polish. The Hungary are going to be focusing on Hungary. Every other place is just going to start focusing on themselves. Because that's what good nations do. That's what good nations that are growing do. But for some reason, in America, you're taught to be ashamed. If you're the guy who's America first, you're just like, what are you, a white nationalist? Jeez, you crazy? You want to focus on this place with all your privilege? You kidding me? You privileged son of a... It's ridiculous. It's crazy. And I've said this before, if it keeps on happening, America will not be a place that can aid another place, that can send $100 billion here and send $100 billion there and throw some troops on the ground here. It won't be able to do it if it keeps on this path. It needs to stop. It really does. And shout out to Tucker for having the strength to say all that. Not many people. Who else is saying this, really? I mean, a lot of people who you consider very right, you know, Ben Shapiro is just all about like, we should be sending everything over to Israel right now. And there's a lot of people on board with that. Lindsey Graham's like, we should bomb every piece of land that isn't America immediately, so my stocks go up. It's wild. Thank God Tucker has this platform and is able to give speeches where he's giving a speech right now and has 10 million people following him. Like, thank God he's willing to say this, because, you know, when you hear those cheers in that crowd, you can time that by millions. There are millions upon millions upon millions of people who feel the exact same way. And even more, that if you explain the situation and how dire it can get in America, if this keeps on continuing, they would also be on board with the whole America first. It's ridiculous. But when we focus on the Twitter feeds, not all the Twitter feeds, my Twitter feed's not like that, but you know what I mean? When you focus on social media, when you focus on the mainstream media, all you see is this whole thing being pushed on you that you have to help the other place. You have to be okay with it. You have to stop focusing on the border. Okay? That's xenophobic for you to be focusing on the border. Those people just want to live. You can't be focusing on the schools and what's happening there with kids. You can't do that. You can't do that. Don't be a conspiracy theorist. Okay? It's wild. Absolutely wild. Let me know in the comment section what you think of all this. If you haven't liked the episode already, like the episode. If you haven't subscribed already, make sure to subscribe. And other than that, I am out.